Good afternoon to everybody, and I am indeed pleased and honored to be present here, to be connected to all of you via Zoom technology, to share my thoughts on a very important topic. That topic is open banking, and I hope that all of you have enjoyed all your sessions so far today, and also it would be a very fruitful program for all of you with the IBEX and all other organizations. So I thank all the organizers to help me to do that. I will have a presentation. I will share it with you now. Can you see the presentation, please? Mr. Jeevan, can you see the presentation? Okay. Okay, open banking progress, what has been achieved and what does the future hold for it? And this is the topic that I'm speaking to you today. And if you look at the question of this open banking, the revolution of open banking just started about say 3 years ago. But unlike the other banking technology programs, this did not catch up in the banking sector because it was not a wildfire that had in fact taken the entire banking system throughout the globe. But there are some countries which have started it. The reason for the slow movement of the open banking revolution in globally was not the paucity of what is known as these APIs, application program interface developers, and there are lots of application programming interface developers throughout the globe who want to join the program. But there has been some other problems for the financial system to get into the open banking system. If you look at the progress so far, the pioneer in the open banking was the United Kingdom. It started about say 3 years ago. Compulsorily, it made it mandatory for the big banks in UK to join the open banking system. Then the European Union also issued a new payments directive, which is called PSD2, Payment System Directive 2, in January 2019, which has facilitated the European banks to join the open banking system. But other countries in the world, they have already joined the open banking system. The countries which are already in the system are Australia, Canada, Hong Kong, Japan, Israel, Mexico, New Zealand, and Singapore. And what we find is that there are no emerging countries, emerging economies, which have so far joined the open banking system. But of course, if you look at the way that they are conducting their business, we can see that even the emerging economies have long before the onset of open banking in the global financial scenario, they have they have partially joined the open banking system. So some examples are the establishment of the credit information bureaus to collect information from all banks and share that information. We find that in Malaysia and Thailand, they were into this business in early 1980s. Then we have Sri Lanka, which started its own credit information bureau in 1990. India went for it in 2001. So the establishment of credit information bureaus was one way to join the open the open banking system to banking industry. Then all other countries in the region are following suit now. Countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan. In our region, they have started setting up these credit information bureaus. So partially they are onto the job. Then there was another important development in the last 2 to 3 year time period. The one is that the Know Your Customer register, when one bank builds up a Know Your Customer register, it's now being shared by all other banks. And this is happening in almost all the countries in our region. And as a result, it's a kind of an open banking system. Then in Sri Lanka, we have the joint mortgage registries. so that when a customer gets himself into a mortgage with one bank, that information is shared with other banks also by the Credit Information Bureau of Sri Lanka, so that it's also a kind of an open banking system. But if you look at the full scope of open banking, there is a long way for the banking system in our region to go for the full open banking system. So that is what we are having today. So if you look at the issues at hand, we can find that there are three kinds of issues coming from the three top participants in the open banking system, except the what we know as the uh, API developers. One is the regulators. They are actually fear of opening floodgates without adequate safety measures, because normally a banking regulator means a very conservative institution, and as a result, this conservatism of the banking regulators have prevented them from endorsing openly in our part of the world for banks to go for open banking system. Second one is the in the case of the open banking system, the information is shared with non-bank uh, API developers, which are startup companies, and those are completely outside the control and the purview of both the central bank and the banks concerned. So as a result, the commercial banks and other financial institutions are unwilling to trust the non-bank enterprises which have to use the information which are being shared in the open banking system. Then we have the third category, the customers. They are also reluctant to allow the third parties to use their personal information. That is because in the banking laws prevalent in all our countries, the bank is not supposed to divulge the information related to any particular customer to a third party unless the customer himself has sanctioned it. So here we have the problem of the customer's reluctance, and as a result, they also don't trust, because there have been instances in our part of the world that the banking institutions have been uh, releasing the information to third parties which would use it for unwarranted purposes. So as a result, the customers are unwilling to do that. So because of these three issues with us, even though globally the open banking system is the future of the banking system, banks and the financial regulators in our part of the world have so far not gone into open banking system. Then, in order to promote the open banking system, there is a way forward. The way forward is one is to understand the benefits which the open banking system should bring to customers. Second one is for to allay the fears harbored by the banking regulators, we have to design effective regulatory measures uh, in order to prevent the abuse of the system. So that part we have so far not done in our part of the world, and it's something that we are yet to do. Then the third one is the legal protection to banks and customers, because if something is abused, if something goes wrong, the customers and the banks might get blamed by the regulators and the governments in the country. So as a result, there must be protective laws which would safeguard the interests of the banks and the customers. So these are the three steps that we have to take in order to make the open banking system widely used in our part of the world. Then, if you look at the welfare to customers, there are a number of welfare benefits the customers would get. One is that there would be improved competition among the banking institutions when they go for open banking, because the information relating to one bank or one customer is actually uh, uh, accessible, and also it is in public domain for visual inspection by other people also. So as a result, no single banking institution can the cheat any particular customer, because there is improved competition, and improved competition will always bring benefits to the customers in the market, in any market, not necessarily in the financial industry market. In any market, if there is improved competition among the participants, it would definitely bring benefits to customers in the form of number one, lowering the prices. Number two, improving the products. Number three, delivery system handling and so forth. So therefore, that is one important aspect which the open banking would bring to customers, and we have to make it known to all the people involved that it will serve their own purpose rather than serving the purposes of this what is known as this API developers. Then the cost effectiveness in financial services, because the every bank will try to cut down its cost because it's actually prices are now known to the entire market. So as a result, uh, no no bank or no financial institution can charge the customers at its uh, own discretion. And in the case of a monopoly or an oligopoly, where the bank or financial institution would set the price. Now here, the banks will have to go for a price determined in the market, which is known to everybody. So as a result, the banks have the incentive to cut their cost. So therefore, the financial services are to be provided by banks with cost effectiveness, which would certainly push the economy of any country towards its the optimal level. Third one is the greater transparency in the financial markets, which would also help the governments and regulators and also other people involved in order to know what is happening in the financial market. And the biggest beneficiary is the banking regulator and also the tax authorities. So this is another important aspect of the open banking. And these benefits have to be documented, enumerated, and made known to all the parties involved, so that the reluctance on the part of the regulators, banks, and customers go for the open banking can be somewhat mitigated. Then the banking regulators, because we know banking regulators are very conservative individuals. Regulatory institutions like the central banks or financial sector authorities are also very conservative because they don't want to accept anything new. That is because they have the fear of new thing, fear of the unknown, fear of the darkness. So in order to illuminate that darkness and bring them also to fall, there are certain steps that we have to take, and those steps are we have to introduce new laws to regulate the API users, because the API users in all these countries, they have to we have to now remember that once the banking information is shared uh, between a bank and the API, that information can be abused, and it always happens in countries like ours. People always use the banking information for their own benefit. So therefore, we will have to introduce new laws in order to uh, allay the fears of the regulators. Now, this happened in the case of the payment system. In the case of payment systems, countries which had gone for the advanced modern payment systems have to introduce new laws in order to guard the regulators in also to secure and also ensure a secured and an orderly market in the payment system. So new laws are necessary, and that is one of the most important things that we have to take care. Second one is the competency in supervising and regulating cyberspace transactions, which is an art as well as a science which has to be developed by the regulators. Now here, what matters to us is that regulators should be able to foresee what is happening in the future or in the market when they see some of the trigger points. So these trigger points are, in fact, very sensitive, and you must have a very excellent brain power and excellent a watchful eye in order to see them and then appropriately evaluate them and decide to make decisions. So for that purpose, a new the all the supervising staff in regulating institutions it should get competency in supervising and regulating cyberspace transactions. The third and most important factor is regulators should be able to act proactively before systems break down, because everybody knows that in the case of the financial system, Now the transactions take place at the speed of light, and therefore, just by the flickering of an eye, the transaction would have been completed, and money should have gone from one place to another. And unless you are able to see it proactively and take action beforehand, the system might break down. In order to prevent that, the regulators will have to develop the ability to act proactively in order uh, to save the system from possible breakdown. So those are the three aspects of the thing that we have to do in order to uh, allay the fears for the regulators for the purpose. The third one is the legal protection to banks and customers. One is the compensation of victims. There must be a law as well as a compensation fund in order to compensate the people who have been victimized. Second one is there must be due laws which should actually be able to punish the catch the offenders and then punish them. This is a very important thing. And perhaps sometimes you may catch the offender, but you are not in a position to punish them because your legal system is weak. Then the third up is the speed up the litigation process, because in countries like ours, it takes years and years for legal system to adjudicate any particular aspect of a conflict between two parties. And as a result, once the adjudication is made, the importance of the legal case completely vanishes. So therefore, there must be a system to speed up the litigation process, and for that purpose the judiciary will have to be reformed in all these countries. Now these are the things that we have to do as a prerequisite for the establishment of the open banking system in the world. This is the end of my presentation, and I have finished it in the 15-minute times allocated to me, and thank you very much. And we will be moving backward now. And thank you very much. And I also wish you all your best, and I hope that the entire program would be of benefit to you. So thank you very much.